What is up, my friends, and how's it going? And welcome back to the next Let's Play series with your fellow comrade Summary. Before we hop into the episode, I would like to apologize to every one of you who have waited so patiently for this next episode. And the reason that I could not really record this episode sooner is because I was down with a bad flu for about 3 months. And even though I had the energy levels to do a recording, my voice wasn't perfect and I was coughing a lot and I was wheezing a lot, so I really could not record anything, and it was a really tough phase in my life. However, as soon as I got done with it, I was overloaded with a lot of work, a lot of family matters to tend to, as well as a lot of travels, as you know. However, that's all in the past. I am well and good right now, and so we are going to hop right into this episode and we are going to start our brand new Let's Play series as the Seleucids, which are a part of the Diadochi culture group. We are playing as the Seleucids because they have won the voting in the YouTube community polls that I had carried out several months ago, and of course we are going to be playing without using gold to diplomatically rein in our satraps. We are going to be paying that iron price and fighting our satraps, allowing them to rebel. So it's a little bit of a self-sabotaging kind of campaign, but it should be a very interesting campaign nonetheless. However, before we go ahead and hop right into the campaign, we are going to discuss, of course, the various buffs and debuffs available to the Diadochi cultural group as well as the Seleucids. As the Diadochi, you get 2 buffs, namely the Alexander's Legacy, which offers 20% resistance to foreign occupation. What this means is that all of the provinces that you occupy or that you own, which has foreign culture, will be less unhappy with you occupying that province, which is basically a very weird way of saying decreased foreign culture public order penalties, alright? But that's basically what it is. The next buff you have is the Successor Conflicts, which is basically 10 morale for all units during battle against Hellenic factions. Now this is quite helpful because you are surrounded by a lot of Hellenic factions, including the Diadochi, the Greek city-states, and of course you also have some Greek colonies in the nearby vicinity. However, it is just a moral buff, which means it's not really all that important, and it is also against Hellenic factions. So what actually becomes of this buff once you are the only or the dominant Hellenic power? It's basically useless against all other factions. So I wouldn't really rate this buff as something that's game breaking, but it is quite helpful nonetheless in the early game, especially when you're in the midst of a Diadochi war. Moving on to the Seleucids, we have 3 modifiers. The first 2 buffs are basically the Royal Estates, which gives increased agricultural income. Most of you who have seen my Let's Play series will know that this isn't a big buff because when it comes to economy, you mainly want to focus on commerce as well as industry, as they are the big money makers. However, agriculture is not all that lucrative. But in the early game, that being said, agriculture can be a very useful source of income because it is multifaceted in the fact that you will get food for your faction as well as you can make some money on the side. So it is quite helpful in the early game, not so much helpful in the late game. Next up we have the multiculturalism, which is decreased foreign culture public order penalties, which is basically the same thing as Alexander's Legacy. However, this is much better in its wording and it will not confuse you. I actually had to go into the game files to read what this actually means, and after spending a lot of time, because it is very vague, so I had to go through a lot of files to get down to basically the core essence of what this means, and it basically means multiculturalism. Alright guys, that's what it is, and take my word for it. And that being said and done, we're gonna go over the debuff, which is the Overlords of the East. And this is a pretty significant debuff, my guys, and that is because it's a major diplomatic penalty with all Persian factions, and over here in the east we have all Persian satrapies, so they're gonna hate our guts and they are going to rebel against us with that scripted event in Divide et Impera, which kind of forces your eastern satrapies to rebel against you, especially if they find you in a weakened state. However, we are going to go ahead and allow them to rebel. Ideally, whenever I play as the Seleucids, I am well able to easily placate each and every single one of these satrapies, so they don't actually rebel against me, which allows me to peacefully integrate them bit by bit using the Timbe Trade Region submod that I use. It has been used in the previous Let's Play series, as well as, for any of you wondering, you will find this submod in my description down below in the YouTube video description, alongside the other mods I am using for this Let's Play series. In the West, however, we do have another satrapy, but this is a Hellenic satrapy of Lydia, so they are more likely to be loyal with us. That being said and done, we are going to hop right into the campaign, but not before we take a look at the roster available to the Seleucids. Now, when it comes to the Seleucids, you might notice some new unit cards, because I am in the process of making new unit cards for as many of the units in the factions in Divided Empera. So I really need your help, guys. If you can contact me on Discord, I can give you a tutorial on how to prepare these unit cards, and you basically will be assisting me to do a complete overhaul for the entire mod, and it does not take a lot of your time, because I'm not going to give you the complete responsibility to do these unit cards. What I am going to do is give you certain tasks that can take a lot of the pressure off me and can allow me to complete a lot more unit cards in a shorter amount of time. However, that being said and done, let us hop into the unit roster for the Seleucids, and as you can see, we have a plethora of troops, nothing really lacking, perhaps just the missile cavalry. We don't have access to horse archers at all whatsoever, so we might have some difficulty facing the eastern factions, as they are pretty horse archer cavalry heavy factions. So we're gonna have to see how exactly we're gonna counter that. Thankfully, we will have access to Cretan archers as well as Balearic slingers, and especially the slingers. These guys are going to be absolutely critical and crucial in fighting against horse archers. And of course, we are going to see if we can get some really fast moving cavalry units. Like, I remember the final episodes of our Let's Play Roman series, in which we actually hired the Numidian auxiliary cavalry, and those guys were running around at 11 to 12 speed, which is insane considering some of the fastest cavalry move at around 8. And 12 speed basically means they are as fast as infantry in comparison to our cavalry, which made it so easy for us to catch up to horse archers and basically pin them down, giving us enough time to get our more heavier units into the engagement that are really good at countering enemy horse archers. So we're going to have to find a kind of cavalry that can easily catch up to enemy horse archers. However, that being said and done, we have a really amazing roster. I haven't really done a factional overview guide for the Seleucids. However, they are very similar to the Bactrians, and I have done a guide for those for that faction, so you can check it out on my channel, and then you will get an understanding of what the Seleucids are capable of. As far as faction ranking is concerned, the Seleucids are actually second in my book, and that is because they are an S tier, just like Roma. They have really great units, most of which come from the second class population, which is why they come second to Roma, which gets most of its elite units from the third class as well as the fourth class population system. However, that being said and done, enough is enough. Let us hop right into the episode, and I will see all of you guys in the episode. Alright, welcome guys, and we are here in the campaign, and as you can see, we start out with the Seleucid Empire. We are almost in control of Syria. We have one province that is under the Armenians. Meanwhile, we have the entirety of Mesopotamia, and we also have Palmyra. All three of these provinces have really high Persian cultural influence, which is kind of bad. However, on a positive note, our faction group as well as our factional bonuses allows us to counteract any severe public order penalties that we will have due to the cultural differences, which is why we're not really almost in the state of rebellion as far as I can tell. However, that being said and done, let us quickly hop into the political scene. And as you can see, our faction leader is none other than Antiochus I. He is the son of Seleucus Nicator. Now, Seleucus Nicator was actually the winner of the first Diadochi War, and he basically, in my opinion, would have gone, all the way and reunited the entirety of Alexander's empire. He basically conquered the entire East, basically conquered the Levant as well as Anatolia. And while he was making plans to campaign against Thracia as well as take out the Macedonian kingdom, which at the time wasn't under the Antigonids, if I remember correctly, he was actually assassinated by a member of the Ptolemaic faction. And basically what that did was forever change the course of history, and never again was Alexander's empire to ever be reunited. And what ends up happening is that his son, Antiochus I, who is actually quite good, who's named the Savior, is basically because I believe he held off an invasion by the invading Celtic tribes, namely the Galatians, as you can see over here, and that's why he was given that name. However, during his reign, a lot of these Seleucid satraps started to rebel against Seleucia, and it wasn't until Antiochus the Great that he managed to regain a lot of the eastern territories. Meanwhile, as you can see in the east, we have Parthia, already a breakaway satrap. We have Bactria, also another breakaway satrap, that are independent, and they are not historically accurate for this time frame. They end up becoming independent a lot later, but it's very hard to get that to happen in the game. And basically what that would mean is that Bactria and Parthia wouldn't really exist throughout the entire campaign. So as a gameplay perspective, Divided Empire team has decided to make them independent and playable from the start of the campaign. We also have, of course, the Maurya Samraja. I have played a Let's Play series with them. They are just, have this easternmost part of what was formerly the Seleucid territory after Chandragupta Maurya, the founder of the Mauryan Empire, actually defeated Seleucus Nicator. And basically in that peace treaty, he married a daughter of Seleucus Nicator, I believe, and at the same time he gave Seleucus 500 Indian elephants, which were the best elephants of the ancient warfare era. And basically this tipped the tide of the Diadochi War in Seleucus's favor. However, that being said and done, the political situation as far as our other parties are concerned, we have the Macedonian nobility, which doesn't really have very bad debuffs. They have the hate Easterners, which is going to hurt us in the early game since we do have a lot of treaties with Easterners, namely our satraps. However, towards the middle or late game, this penalty won't really hurt us because we will have consolidated our holdings in the east, so it shouldn't be much of a problem. Meanwhile, the militarist is a really good buff to have because we get +2 loyalty for 3 turns for every military victory, and in order to actually win this campaign, we're going to need a lot of military victories, guys. That being said, the next political party we have is the Royal Philoi. These guys have really good traits, so I'm not really going to bother. Of course, this third trait is, tied into the leader of the political party and can be changed with politics by assassinating him or replacing him with a more favorable trait, or a person rather that has a more favorable trait. Lastly, we have the local nobility, a really good set of traits once again, so we got really good RNG with this campaign. However, Bigot is a little bit penalizing, especially considering, we are going to get -1 loyalty for each province where our Hellenic culture is not dominant, and we start off with -3 from Bigot because we have 3 provinces, all of which are almost 100% Persian culture. As far as our government is concerned, we are a kingdom, which is rather strange because the Seleucids were actually an empire, so it would make more sense for us to start in as an empire, but for gameplay purposes, I can see why they went with kingdom, because an empire in the early game would be just too overpowered. I mean, just look at those buffs, and the debuffs are nothing that you really care about, especially in the mid to late game when you are a really strong entity that no one can really oppose you. then you don't really care about these debuffs like diplomacy and building costs, where you have like your rolling in money and empire maintenance, which you should easily be able to get down to 0. Meanwhile, the benefits are really amazing. So without any doubt, we are going to reform into an empire as soon as we possibly can. However, that being said and done, a quick summary of our political situation. As you can see, we are going to start in a clockwise fashion. To the northwest, we have Bithynia and Galatia. They're not going to be too friendly with us. They have just recently invaded Asia Minor, and they are going to be looking to expand. So these two are going to be really the problematic factions in the region. We have Bithynia or Galatia. Most of the time, they end up attacking the only loyal satrapy we have. So there's no break for us as far as that is concerned. Meanwhile, we also have the added problem of having a Ptolemy settlement, or a Ptolemid settlement, namely Side over here. And which means that we kind of are in a two-front situation if we go to war against the Ptolemids. And believe me, we will be going to war against the Ptolemids, because that assassination is not going to go unanswered. Meanwhile, in the direct north, we have Katpatuka, who starts off in a war against Pontus, which is not yet revealed, but that's where they are, in Amasea. And to the east of them, we have the Armenian kingdom that owns one of the provinces, or one of the regions within our Syria province. So we're going to have to try to get it from them. I would prefer to get it from them diplomatically, because of how you guys decided that I should play this campaign. And I really don't want to be fighting a war on all fronts, let alone two fronts. So definitely going to try to appease my frontier over here with the Armenians, as well as the Atropatene Khan. So basically, if we can secure that, as well as we can secure our southern borders with the Arabian factions, then it's going to be very manageable to deal with our rebellious satrapies and the Ptolemids at the same time. However, that being said and done, there is one Arabian faction that is completely against us, and that is Nabateans. And these guys are friendly with the Ptolemies, which means they will be very hostile towards us, and it is even possible that they will end up attacking us. So we're gonna have to be aware of that possibility. When it comes to our satrapies, we have quite a lot of Persian satrapies, so straight off the bat, they are going to be disloyal to us because of that faction trait that we have. However, in most of my playthroughs, or that I've done on my own, playing as the Seleucids, because they are honestly one of my favorite factions in the entire Divided Empire game, I am able to easily placate each and every single one of my satrapies, and then use the Timbe Trade Region submod to peacefully integrate them and basically consolidate the Seleucid Empire without any bloodshed. But since you guys voted in the YouTube community poll that you want to see me pay the iron price, we are going to let the script for the Seleucid satrapy rebellion kick in, which means worst case scenario, we could have all of our satrapies rebel against us, in which case we will really need to defend Charax as well as Seleucia from the invasions of our satraps. However, in a better case scenario, we could have a couple of satraps rebel against us, and they tend to be Asagata as well as Zranka. And what ends up happening is that then our satraps begin to fight against each other. Basically, we're divided into two types. We have our rebellious satraps, and then we have our loyalists. And basically, if the loyalists end up winning, then we will get larger loyalists that are a lot easier to integrate peacefully. And of course, if the loyalists end up winning and handle the situation for me, or at least assist me in handling the situation, I will peacefully integrate them because I am in no mood of backstabbing those who remain loyal to me. However, if the rebellious satraps end up winning, then they will be at our doorstep, but this should buy us enough time to kind of deal with the Ptolemids. Sorry, we are the Seleucids. To deal with the Ptolemids, and after I deal with the Ptolemids, I should be in a very good position to kind of focus my attention eastward and begin to conquer the east. But for the meantime, what I am going to do is I am going to heavily defend or militarize in Seleucia as well as Charax, and focus my main offensive push into the Ptolemies, because once I wipe out the Ptolemies, I will be in control of Aegyptos, and as most of you know, Aegyptos is one of the best S-tier economic provinces in the game, which would mean that I will be able to support a lot more troops. Meanwhile, to deal with the situation up here between these two guys, it's going to be rather difficult, and if they do decide to invade my satrap of Lydia, I'm going to have to come up with a solution on the spot, because I'm not going to have a lot of resources to spare to both the Ptolemies, my satraps, and of course these factions should they decide to attack. However, that being said and done, let us hop back into the campaign map and have a quick look at our starting economy. We start with 21,000 denarii, the standard amount of treasury that all the factions in the game have. However, what we are going to do is engage in diplomacy, and by doing that, we are going to build up our chest. And what we really want to do is we want to be able to secure some of our frontier, and in this case I offered a military access so that I can discover even more factions, and that is pretty much what you want to do. So we're going to establish defensive agreements with the Atropated Khan as well as the Armenians, and we are going to give them military access as well. Fantastic. And now that I have discovered Trapezos, I can get a trade agreement with them. Ask them for denarii, that's perfect. We have discovered Thini as well, so let's actually get Colchis to give me a trade agreement as well. Where did we go? Where did we go? Where's the trade agreement? Oh, I'm sorry, we're still on Trapezos, silly me. Alright, so let's get that trade agreement. Let's get some payments, and hopefully they will pay me the same. Meanwhile, we can even get for Sinope. We're gonna get that trade agreement and the payment, so we're gonna keep doing this until we can squeeze every single bit of denarii that we possibly can. Can't really get much over there. Gonna try to secure our southern borders. I don't want the non-aggression with these guys. I don't want the non-aggression with guys I do not care about, because I don't want to swing the balance of opinion too much in one direction. I know that the Mamlakat in Nabata and the Kidri often go to war with each other, so by getting too many treaties with these guys, I could end up really pissing off the Nabateans, and that would be an absolute disaster. So what we are going to do is we're going to get trade agreements so that we can get as much denarii as we possibly can. And alright, we can ask more from Muscat. So let's actually ask them. Let's try 1500, why not? Perfect. Meanwhile, obviously we can't do anything with the Ptolemies, so we are going to focus on Kyrene. And with the Kyrene, okay, they're not willing to engage in further diplomacy against us, so I'm not going to push for it. However, what I am going to do is focus on some of the other factions like Rhodos. Let's go ahead and yep, we are going to get some trade agreements up and running with Knossos as well. Sorry guys, this is going to take a bit of time. However, it is what it is. Let's try to get some trade agreements with Athens as well. Try to get as much money as we possibly can. Perfect. Can we also get a non-aggression with them? They will pay for it, which is fantastic. Maybe if I get a military access, then... Okay, I was able to get the military access. The reason I wanted the military access is because I was hoping it would, I would end up discovering more of the map. However, that didn't actually pan out exactly how I wanted to, but it did make Macedon a bit more friendly towards me. So I am going to try to improve or get some more money out of Macedon, which is fantastic. Which means we're gonna quickly check if we have all the trade agreements and everything we need. Yep, that seems about right. And we now have 45,000 denarii, which means we more than doubled our starting treasury just through those diplomatic actions. And as you can see, even our income got bumped up by quite a significant amount. Now, that being said and done, what I typically end up doing is I now start to kind of pay off some of my satrapies over here, try to improve their opinion about me, but I'm not going to do that in this campaign because I am going to get them to rebel against me. And keep in mind, as far as the rebellion is concerned, it can be worst case scenario in which all of them rebel, or it can be a better case scenario in which we have the whole rebellious versus the loyalist satraps. I really can't guarantee the outcome of this, guys, and I am not going to purposely sabotage myself by, just going out and declaring war and ruining my relationship, or rather my reliability rating. So it is what it is, but definitely we are going to have a rebellion. How big of a rebellion? Only time will tell. That being said and done, we have enough money, we have done our diplomacy. Let's have a quick look at technology. We start out with some military technology, which means we don't really have to focus on any military technology. Meanwhile, what we can focus on is, of course, our civil technology. And with the civil technology, I usually like to go for advanced construction techniques as well as water slicing, because this actually improves the growth rate of my settlements. However, we don't have to really spend a lot of our money on building up our settlements as quickly as we possibly can, because we're going to need a lot of that money to build a lot of armies. We will need at least one half stack army over here in the south. I'm thinking of a very hoplite styled army, so that the units are not too expensive. I mean, I could go for pike units, provided that they are cheaper than the hoplite units, and they are not, obviously, for obvious reasons, because they are way more effective than hoplite units. However, hoplites will do just fine, especially in defending unwalled settlements like Charax, and they are going to be absolutely insane when it comes to defending a walled settlement like Seleucia. So as long as I can get a couple of, or at least 5 to 6 hoplites in there, along with a couple of cavalry, heavy hitting cavalry, I will be able to defend this no matter how many stacks my satraps throw at me. That being said and done, we will need another army somewhere in the north over here in Tarsos. Basically, it's going to be a very small type army, again just mimicking what we are going to be doing down here in the south, and that is because what we actually want to do is be able to quickly respond to any threats from Ancyra, from the Galatians, as well as the Bithynians. If they manage to attack our satrap of Lydia up here, we're going to have to help our satrap as quickly as we can, because we want to make sure that these provinces stay Hellenic and that population does not get absolutely obliterated due to our ignorance. Meanwhile, we can also defend against any possible attacks from side. The reason being is because we want to be on the defensive over here. We don't want to attack side because it is a port settlement, which means we're going to have to sit inside for a very long time, because we're going to have to wait for the garrison to replenish, which means an army will be absolutely kind of locked inside side. Oh my god, that's hilarious. However, that being said, we are going to wait at least until the culture of Galatia at Cappadocia flips to Hellenic before we even think about attacking side. Meanwhile, the main focus is of course going to be our faction leader Antiochus I, Antiochus the Soter. Let's see if he can actually save us against the Ptolemaic invasion. And what he is going to do is he's going to build his actual stack, and we are going to use that to push into Yehuda first and then into Egyptos. We might need 2 stacks, depending on how formidable the Egyptians are, and if they actually manage to take on the Cairines, as well as, I believe over here, I don't remember the faction name, I think it's the Nasamodes. However, we're gonna have to see what the situation is. That being said and done, let us actually begin by trying to change the culture of these provinces so that we don't have that much public order penalties. And in order to do that, what we could do is build temples, but I don't recommend doing that because temples actually cost. So let's just expand this settlement over here. Temples actually cost regional upkeep. So what this means is that you're going to be making a lot less income per turn in the early game if you build a bunch of temples in Mesopotamia and Palmyra and so forth. I mean, temples are quite good in the sense that they actually give you public order, which kind of counteracts the public order debuff that we're getting over here. But for the most part, let's not go ahead and build temples. Instead, let's focus on buildings that will improve our economy. And what better building to begin with than simple livestock buildings that will give us not just the food we need, but also a good amount of income. And we're going to keep doing that in as many provinces as we can. So let's just go ahead. That seems to be fine. Meanwhile, over here, we are going to do the same thing. We have about 4 slots over here. So we can upgrade 2 of these, so let's go ahead, get both of them upgraded. And we are going to build some more livestocks. Perfect. And now that we have livestock, we should be pretty good as far as food is concerned. And so what we are going to do is focus next on our military buildings. And as far as military buildings is concerned, we will need to see what exactly we can recruit. And we have access to the Hippeus Agematos. I'm totally going to butcher the Hellenic names over here. But basically the early Royal Guard cavalry, which is a really good cavalry. They are fairly expensive. A cheaper option would be Companion Cavalry. Companion Cavalry is also faster. They do have that diamond formation. So I am slightly leaning towards Companion Cavalry. And the only way to get Companion Cavalry, or even, you know, sorry, which cavalry was that? Okay, the Hippeus Agematos. These guys are going to be level 3, so definitely we're going to go for the Companion Cavalry, which is a lot faster moving cavalry. However, whatever cavalry we do have, we're not going to disband them, even though they are really expensive to maintain. So what we are going to do is we're going to focus on seeing what we can build. We can build, as far as infantry is concerned, we can build our pikemen and we can build our hoplite phalanx, so that's not a problem. However, if I do change the building, I lose access to my recruitment ability, so that's going to be a little bit unideal. So definitely what I am going to do is, I think cavalry we don't really need that much, so we're going to put up the cavalry recruitment building in Palmyra. Meanwhile, we are going to retain our barracks. There's no need to upgrade them because we're getting the infantry units that we require, unless of course the upgrade gives us access to even more infantry, which I don't really think it does. So yep, we're just going to leave it just like that. So we're looking quite good as far as everything is concerned. The last thing we need to do is actually build up our ports. We want the commercial ports because although we can focus on the fishing ports, which give 5 food and 100 wealth from farming, what the commercial port does is that it actually gives you 270 wealth from commerce, which is a direct upgrade of 250 almost wealth from commerce, and that is a huge increment. So we definitely want to be doing that. Meanwhile, let's have a quick look at our technology. I did mention I usually go down the quicker settlement growth thing, but for now I do believe the more pressing thing that we need is that cultural conversion, as well as if we have anything that could improve our public order, which I don't think we have. The growth, okay, growth. I imagine public order should be there somewhere. Right, it's over here. It's in the philosophy tree. So yeah, we're definitely going to be focusing on the philosophy tree, although I do really want to get access to the sanitation building. So you know what, I am actually going to get access to the sanitation buildings, because by the time I am done with this research, I should be, you know, close to approaching Egypt, and I really want to upgrade that province as quickly as I can to get my economy up and running. So technology is done, buildings is done. I could do one more thing and actually get an amphitheatron over here. This is not one of the buildings I usually like to build, but it does give that +5 public order per turn, which is quite helpful. Another thing I could do is actually build a supply pit, because there is a big possibility of a lot of attrition over here. So what does the supply pit actually give me? Right, not really that good as the Amphitron, I guess, but I guess the army replenishment is also quite nice. So okay, I'm gonna have to decide on that later, but what I am going to do for now is begin recruiting some of our units. But as you can see, I have gone ahead and renamed the army to the Hellenic name, Stratos 2 Mesopotamia, and of course we have Stratos 1 Seleucia. But before I go ahead and recruit the armies, what we have to do is, of course, talk about that cultural conversion. And since I don't actually use temples to to help with my cultural conversion, what I do recommend doing is using agents. Now agents are going to be quite good. So see, you have this +2 cultural influence over here, so we're going to go ahead and get that person, and straight off the bat you can see that we will have a lot of cultural influence over here. Meanwhile, we can get another agent over here. This is the tax and public order. Bread and games. Okay, what does bread and games give me? It decreases my food but increases my public order, so it's quite good to get that. And since I cannot really put an edict here, since I don't own the entirety of Syria, I think the logical choice would be to get this advisor over here. Perfect. And then we can put the bread and games edict. We could go ahead and do the taxation edict, but I really want to focus on my public order. So we're going to do the bread and games edict in as many provinces as we can. And now that we have our agents up and running, we can also focus on getting some army upkeep champions. So let's get this guy over here. He does give that experience gain per turn, which is quite nice. And lastly, what we will need is definitely we will need a couple of spies, but they are rather expensive. So I am going to focus on recruiting first before I run out of money. And what we want to focus on for now is to figure out our army composition. We will need slingers, so I'm thinking we get 2 slingers, and then we can get 2 of these Peltas units. These are Iphicration early Peltas, and they're really good because they are actually a spear skirmisher. And as you can see, I made a new unit card that basically nicely displays their purpose in the battle. You can see those nice javelins as well as the spear. They're charging in with that double-handed spear. And we are gonna pretty much do the same over here. I mean, this archer isn't really better and he costs more, so I don't see the point in keeping him. While slingers are ridiculously expensive. Oof. Alright. But they do have good range, so I can see why. Alright. So we will continue with getting our slingers. Get rid of this guy. We don't really need him. And we are going to see, can we recruit more? Because if we can, then I want to get some Yuzunoi. These guys are pretty good because they are a melee kind of infantry, which means they will be able to, be in melee. They're decent. They come from that 3rd class population, but they have 3 ammunition and they are 300 men strong, which means they have 900 javelins per unit, which is absolutely insane. So we get some couple of Iphicrations. We don't really need them. What we need over here is a bunch of pikemen. So let's actually get those pikemen. We can get a 3rd one. However, I'm not too keen on doing that because I do want to keep this army as small as possible. And what I am going to do is now the only thing left to do is to recruit some more armies, and by recruiting some more characters. So let's actually see. We don't really have anyone that we can use to kind of help with our army, like to transfer over this cavalry unit. I might just leave this cavalry unit actually over here. in fact, to help defend Charax. However, what we definitely need to do is begin recruiting some governor generals to help with that public order situation. So what we are going to do is quickly check our characters. So we have this guy over here who's in charge of Stratus 2 Mesopotamia, so we're not going to bother with him. Meanwhile, we have Archelaus, not really anything significant. We have Patroclus, again, not really anything helpful. We have Euthemius, not really helpful again. And we have, okay, we have Athenaeus, decent. So these three guys are really good economically speaking, sorry. But they're not going to be really good when it comes to helping with the public order. So we might as well just get them regardless. So we get Patroclus, we're going to get Euthemius as well as Athenaeus. So very quickly, let's get them. Euthemius, raise army, and we're not going to give him any cavalry because it's rather expensive. However, it's not too expensive for now, and it is free because if I do decide to choose a shield bearer, it is going to cost me 1,000, and I'm not really prepared to do that. We're going to put him in there, and we're going to just name him as Comes, which basically means Lord, or rather the Count. Just name him Kyrios, actually. Very quickly. Kyrios. Okay, there we go. Which basically means Lord. And we're going to leave him over there to help with that public order. Meanwhile, the next person we have is Athenaeus. Let's go ahead, raise another unit. Put him in Palmyra. Already that's helping with the public order. Again, we're going to name this Kyrios. Because eventually... we're just going to name him Comes, actually. Because eventually we're going to use these guys to kind of govern the province of Egyptos. And finally what we have is we have Patroclus, I believe. Or was it Archelaus? Patroclus, yes. So we want Patroclus. We're going to put him in Thapsacos. Let's go ahead and do that. And as you can see, our maintenance is actually causing us a bit of trouble, but it's nothing too bad. We can really improve ourselves quite quickly. Just a quick look to see if we can recruit any more units. We really can't. So I am going to leave. Hold on, we can actually recruit this cavalry over here. I don't really know why. Okay, it's because of... what's up with this unit card? It shouldn't be that. Alright, because... we have this building. Alright. That's interesting. What's up with that unit card? I really want to fix it if that's going to be an issue. Okay, that's an issue, but I'm going to fix that in, in the future. However, that being said and done, let us go ahead, and I think we can go ahead and end the turn. And I will see you all in the next turn. Alright, welcome to the next turn, and we have a war declared against us. Fortunately, we do have a war target, and that is the Galatians have decided to declare war against us, which is rather unfortunate, which means we have to, as quickly as possible, try our level best to, to deal with them. Meanwhile, over here, I did forget to engage in some sort of diplomacy with Pontus, and the reason being is even though I have some sort of agreement with the Catpatukans, the problem is I do not want either of these factions to kind of win and then be absolutely upset with me. Meanwhile, none of our satrapies so far have decided to rebel against me. They've all respected the call, which is rather surprising. I expected they would be very rebellious towards me. However, let's quickly go ahead and just deploy our dignitaries. Go ahead, deploy them so that they begin that cultural conversion. Public order seems to be on the rise, which is amazing. Meanwhile, I did forget to get one more dignitary, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Hopefully we had a good roll, and this is quite good. Public order and the Bread and Games Edict. So definitely going to get that. Meanwhile, we're gonna have to march as quickly as possible towards Ankara. We will definitely need a spy now, because we're gonna have to keep a look at what's going on down in the south. And we do have that cultural influence, guys, so we're gonna get one of that. Meanwhile, we're gonna get another spy over here. Nothing really fancy as far as spies are concerned. Let's have a quick look at, of course, our champions. And we have a good champion over here, which I could get technically. He's even better than the one that we hired in the previous turn. 15 unit experience, but he starts out at 5, so I'm guessing the other one is even better. So we could recruit him. However, I'm not going to do that because I want to focus on building up my army. And what I really need is a couple of these guys, maybe third one, and we want some extra cavalry. That's going to take a little bit more time to recruit, so we don't have time for the cavalry really, so to speak. But we do have a lot of infantry, so I am going to kind of reduce our emphasis on that. Maybe get another cavalry, remove this. Perfect, so we are now in quite a decent position as far as that's concerned. And we are going to focus, of course, in the south. I did get pikemen. I was supposed to get hoplites. I kind of botched that up. However, pikemen will do quite nicely. What we want is some really cheap light cavalry that's going to be very effective on the charge, but not cost too much to maintain. So, okay, let's have a look at the Greek javelin cavalry. Not really good on the charge. These guys are pretty good, so I'm gonna get a couple of them. And you know what? I can actually move towards Charax, but I won't do that just yet because, you know, every turn I get the public order is going to matter. I am going to move them in case any of my satraps decide to be rebellious against me. However, that being said and done, this guy is busy recruiting, ready to kind of, you know, deal with the Galatian threat. However, this does put us in a very precarious situation. Once we deal with the Galatians, we're going to have a much harder time to deal with the Ptolemies simultaneously. So if the Ptolemies declare on us and our satraps rebel, then we're going to have pretty much a big problem here, because we're going to have a 3-front war. Initially, my idea was to have a 2-front war, kind of placate the north. However, I did mention it was going to be hard with Bithynia and Galatia, and that's exactly what happened. So before we go ahead and end the turn, we're going to have a quick look at our politics. All of the factions seem to be loyal. What we are also going to do is a quick look at our diplomacy. I'm going to see if I can squeeze anything out of my, you know, alliances over here. So I can get a non-aggression with these guys, and they will pay me for it, so I'm going to need that money. Let's get the military access. Will they give a defensive alliance? What about a military alliance? No. Okay, let's get that defensive alliance because I want that money. And this should reveal a little bit more of the map, I'm hoping. And you know, I don't need to show you guys this because I actually showed it to you in the previous turn, but I want to show you how I actually, you know, kind of explore the map. And basically now I have access to Carthage. So we're going to get, again with Carthage, we could get a defensive. No, we can get a non-aggression. We can get military access, which is exactly what I want. Let's, wait, hold on. Let's just get a non-aggression for now. What if we get just a non-aggression? Okay, they're not likely, so we're just going to get these two. Get both of them. Get them to pay me as much as they can. Okay, they're going to reject that, obviously. So, okay, we are going to try to see how much exactly are they willing to pay. Maybe this much. That seems perfect. Can get military access? No. And just like that, we have discovered Roma. So we are going to go ahead, see what we can get with Roma. We can get that non-aggression, military access, perfect. And I really want to improve my situation with Roma. So yeah, gonna get that military access. The more agreements I have with them, the more likely. Maybe I can even offer to join war against Epirus. No, so okay, just get the trade agreement, just get the non-aggression, get some money. Alright, perfect. I've discovered more of the map, can go ahead with Syracuse. just the trade agreement. I don't want anything else because they are going to be in war against Roma or even Carthage, and I really don't want to be called into that war. Perfect. And now with Epeiros, don't want any treaties with them. We can get some treaties with Daorsi, basically some trade agreements, so let's go ahead and get that. Wonder if I can get a military access. Maybe. But I don't know if that will reveal the map, so I guess it's worth a try. Let's actually try that. If it does reveal the map, then this is going to be my new meta. And it did reveal the map a little bit, but it didn't reveal enough to discover any other factions. So right now, don't have many factions that are willing to do any more diplomacy with me. But what I could do is actually deal with the factions that I already know, like Trapezos. Now if I... okay, Trapezos is not interested, but Sinop, for example, non-aggression, they are actually quite interested. What I am going to do is ask them to join the war, give them a non-aggression, and maybe they will, or maybe even Bithynia. You know what? Non-aggression. Okay, they are at war with the Galatians. That's good. So they are not at war with Sinop, so which means I can kind of protect Sinop over here. Give them the non-aggression, join the war against Koine and Galaton. They will actually even pay me. So why not? Pay me. Wow, they're going to pay me quite a bit. Excellent. So now we have Koine and Galaton kind of surrounded. Let's see, military access. These guys are willing to give me that. So we're going to ask them to join the war against the Galatians. And they have. Just like that, we have diplomatically isolated the Galatians, which is actually fantastic. Perfect. So that's some really good maneuvering over there. Let's have a quick look at these guys. They are moderate. Okay, I'm just going to make them accept that. I don't really care. Meanwhile, Pergamon, non-aggression. Okay, not interested. And we're going to have a quick look to see whoever can actually help us over here with some extra money, which is exactly what we need. Defensive, nope. Alright, let's have a quick look at Kyrene. Maybe they will go for that military alliance. Perfect, they're going for that military alliance. We're going to ask them to pay us for it, however. The Nasamones might give us that non-aggression, which is exactly what we want. And maybe we can ask them to join the war against the Galatians. Nope, they are not interested. It's pretty far, to be honest, and they are definitely not going to join that war, but giving us this non-aggression as well as military access is just in preparation for the war against the Ptolemies. I want to be able to call in the Nasamones against the Ptolemies should they decide to attack me. Meanwhile, Nabateans, very quick look over here, nothing much we can do. Okay, so the Nabateans are at war with a couple of factions, which gives us a little bit of time to deal with the whole situation. Meanwhile over here, what's going on? Can I get a military alliance? Nope. What about you? Are you interested? Nope. So we are in a bit of a situation as far as this is concerned. Okay, perfect. I think diplomacy wise we are quite sorted. We have both of our spies up and ready. We did end up putting our champion in over there. You know, actually come to think of it, I think we could recruit a couple of cavalry, but I don't think I will have enough time to do that. So we're just going to have a quick look at all of our buildings, see if there are any buildings we can upgrade. We could technically upgrade this building over here. It will give us some extra food because, as you can see, our food is going down. Speaking of food, we can actually finally get this building that gives some extra food, so definitely a no-brainer over there. We're going to focus on getting our food production up as quickly as possible because we are going to be putting a lot of these bread and game edicts to help with our public order situation. And we are playing with the Vox Populi submod, guys, which kind of means that with better public order, we are going to be getting some really good buffs and debuffs. Right now, when the public order is more or less neutral, we get no buffs or debuffs. However, once the public order gets into the positive, we're going to start to see some really, positive buffs going on in these provinces. However, that being said and done, it is quite obvious that we are done with this turn, so I am going to go ahead and end the turn, and I will see you all in the next turn. Alright, welcome to the next turn, and you would not believe what exactly happened is that we have actually joined a war against the Ptolemies. So we are at war against the Ptolemies, guys. And pretty much we have a two-front war. As far as our satraps are concerned, none of them have rebelled yet. All of them are pretty happy with us. I mean, they are still unfriendly, but they have become a lot more loyal. Some of them have even become neutral. And I swear, guys, as I said, this is RNG. I pretty much never interacted with trying to placate any of my subjects. The RNG I was expecting was an all-out rebellion or you know, a kind of struggle, power struggle between the loyalists as well as the separatists. But what ended up happening is that actually all of them have respected the call to arms and has made my life that much easier, because now any of the two factions that I end up beating is going to make them even more loyal, because they're going to get a lot of opinion from me attacking the Ptolemies as well as the Galatians, and actually conquering or doing any sort of military actions against them. Meanwhile, with the Galatians, as you can see, they are at war with the entire world, man. They did not expect. It is absolutely horrible. I wonder if I can actually even get the Katpatukas against them, and it doesn't seem like that's gonna happen. So basically what they did was they tried to negotiate a peace treaty with me. However, I'm not going to do it unless they completely bend the knee. I could do it, but that is going to piss off my satrapies, and it will end up maybe forcing them to rebel against me, but I kind of don't want to do it. I don't want to force my satrapies to fight against me or to rebel, although I do admit that is what I promised in the votes. But the reason I don't want to do that is because Galatians have never been a weaker. Like, it is a very good opportunity to just wipe them out and be done with the problem once and for all. So yeah, actually that could be a very good thing for me. And since these guys are at war with them, I might get a trade agreement with the Bithynians, which means yes, definitely I could end up securing Anatolia in the long run. So that is actually very tempting to do. And yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and attack the Galatians over here. That is pretty much a no-brainer. But before I do that, I really want to move my spy up to the north, make sure I can see properly what's going on over there. Meanwhile, I have a dignitary over here that I can deploy, so let's go ahead and deploy this dignitary over here. We have another spy. We are going to send him down towards Tyros, and basically what I want to do is send him somewhere over here so that I can get a line of sight of what the Ptolemies are doing. They typically tend to have a bunch of armies in Jerusalem. And now, since we're at war with the Ptolemies, and the Ptolemies didn't exactly attack us, they actually attacked... Who did they attack? They attacked someone weird. And I just accepted the call to arms. I think they declared directly on me, if I'm not mistaken. Although I'm not entirely sure. Okay, in order to do that, I just have to see who they're at war with. Okay, this really doesn't make any sense. I don't know who they're attacking. It seems like they were attacking someone, but they didn't, so yep, whatever. Meanwhile, with the Nasamones, let us actually see. Defensive, join the war against Ptolemies, will you? No, they won't. I can't break any of these treaties just yet, and they won't declare the war against the Ptolemies.
Greetings, most excellent friend. Be at home.
Maybe I could get them to join the war against the Ptolemies, offer some payment, since I do have a lot of money, and we are going to give them a defensive, and they accept that. Wonderful. So now we are going to wait a couple of turns, get that military alliance up and running, and once we get that military alliance, we can actually ask for the money back. Meanwhile, over here we can get these guys, maybe join the war against the Ptolemies. Nope. Alright, so the Ptolemies have a serious threat on their western frontiers, and we can basically have a two-front war against the Ptolemies. Meanwhile, the Mamlukat and Nabata are busy in a war of their own. Hopefully, they do not end up taking out Adumatu. Meanwhile, what I can do is try to march up as close as I possibly can. Can I? Okay, so we are gonna move over here. Quick look. This is still Tarsos. I want to make sure I'm in the correct area. Alright, so this is Tarsos. Army is looking decent. What I do need is some extra pikemen, obviously. So we're gonna get a couple more pikemen. So that should be quite decent for our front line. And we have 20 units per army. Most of you know in my Let's Play Roma series, I did actually play with 40 unit armies. But I have been testing out the game a lot since I had the flu and I couldn't really record. And what I found out is that actually with 40 stack armies, the enemy AI tends to snowball. And what ends up happening is certain factions that have a slight advantage, such as the Lugos and the Suevi, end up having a massive advantage because they actually conquer, keep conquering, and then they're able to get 40 stacks and they're pretty much able to kind of own the entirety of Gallia as well as Dacia and Sarmatia, and you have really huge Germanic factions over here. You end up having huge Iberian factions, huge Britannic factions, and that might be interesting from a gameplay perspective, but I find that very immersive breaking, and I do like to play with that immersion. So I definitely decided against it because I want to see some of that cultural diversity. I don't want to, end up in Thracia and see the Lugii all the way down there and then never have to face against the Odrysians or never have to face against the steppe nomads or whatever that is. But you guys get the point. Some factions end up becoming too overpowered because of the 40 unit armies. Meanwhile, by the looks of it, it seems like I might not actually need to defend over here, and economy wise we are doing quite well. So let's actually see if we can upgrade some more buildings. So we definitely want to upgrade all of our cattle pens so that we get even more food, and we're looking quite good as far as food is concerned, so I'm pretty happy with that. Meanwhile, I really am going to disband these guys because I don't need them. Really, I mean, you know what, I could actually just retain them. Meanwhile, what I am going to do is get into my politics, royal marry off this character so that I have a family member who can be in charge of a real army. And by real army, I mean an army that will actually be involved in a lot of the operations. And what we are going to do is we're going to start moving. Let's see. Okay, what we are going to do is we're going to start recruiting some hoplites. Let's go ahead, recruit up 4 hoplites. We can recruit 5. So I might as well... Yeah, okay, I might as well recruit just 5. And then what we are going to do is we are going to recruit our newfound family member. And we're going to recruit him in Charax. For some reason, with a new member, I can select any unit. So I'm obviously going to select the Hippeus Agamaitos because they are the best. And we're going to put them over here. And we're going to name this Stratos 3. So this is our 3rd army. And it's going to be Syria. And that's perfect. That being said and done, we are ready to go ahead, end the turn. And I will see you all in the future when I am ready to attack the Galatians or make my first move against the Ptolemies. Alright, so welcome to the future, and of course the Galatians are, ready to peace us out. However, they are demanding 100, and the reason that they're demanding 100 is because they are a little bit confident in defeating our army that is outside Ankara, and this is going to be our very first battle of the campaign. I'm going to quick save over here, hop into the battle, and if I succeed at defeating the Galatians in this battle, I will be able to even significantly destroy the garrison, making the conquest of Ankara all the more easier. So let's go ahead, quick save, hop right into the battle, and I will see you all in the battle. Alright, welcome to the battle. we have gone ahead and arranged our army. We have our pikemen in the center, and they are protected by hoplites on either flank. And as you can see, it's a very beautiful looking unit, and this is Zuru Alexander's HD Legacy mod. Link is in the description, of course, and this kind of gives HD units for all of the Greek factions. And I actually waited on him to complete this for my Seleucid playthrough, and I'm really grateful to him. You guys can support him and his work. And that being said, you can see my cavalry is on the flank. Meanwhile, on the flanks as supporting troops, we have our Euxenoi over here, and we do have our Iphicration Peltas. We have our slingers. And what the plan is to kind of encircle the enemy. We can see that they are trying to ignore my pike wall, so I am going to reorient my army. Meanwhile, over here I have assigned a slinger to deal with this skirmisher unit. They are going to be a pain because they're going to be faster than my own cavalry, and my own Hippeus won't be able to catch them. So I quickly realized that, and I try to disengage and try to perform a flanking maneuver. Meanwhile, on the right flank, our leader Antiochus is just chilling, waiting for the entire enemy to kind of engage. The enemy general is over there all the way in the back, and of course we do have the garrison that is attempting to reinforce their comrades. That being said and done, our front lines are not being engaged. I am focusing all my slinger fire into their own skirmishes, and I am slowly going to advance my pike wall into the enemy. So very slowly and surely we are beginning under a hail of missiles to engage the enemy, and with the front lines engaged, I am performing that pincer maneuver over here. Decide to throw some, stop throwing my missiles to kind of help. I try to charge in my Iphicrations to support because they're going to be very good. But I realize that this unit is retreating, so I don't really care. What I am going to do is use the Iphicrations to charge the general that has decided to charge head along into my hoplite units. They do manage to take some casualties. My Iphicrations are going to... they were initially going to fire, but I decided not to. They are spearmen, so better not to waste our missiles against a cavalry unit. What we're going to do is charge nicely into the general. Unfortunately, he does manage to run away, and we don't end up pinning him, which is rather a shame. Meanwhile, on the right flank, nothing much is going on. My hoplite walls as well as my pike units are holding really well. I decide to disengage from chasing this enemy unit because while it is routing, it's at 48 and it's gonna outrun me. So I decide for them to get their morale back, get them back into the fight, and then I am going to attack them. Right now, although they are throwing some javelins at me, I'm not going to chase them because I'm not going to be able to catch them. I decide to use my Euxenoi to throw their javelins into this unit, which absolutely decimates it. Hopefully we will get to see that, and I believe that's what's happening right now, so we're going to focus on that. Meanwhile, on the right flank, I'm going to pull my general out of that sticky situation. So let's have a quick look. The Euxenoi throwing in their javelins, and boom, that does a lot of damage. They've lost about 10 units. They're taking some losses, and they are going to retreat. They're going to be shattered. However, a second volley is going to seal the fate. This unit has dropped below 30 men per unit, which means they're going to be wiped out from the campaign. Meanwhile, my general has managed to move out. I am desperately seeking to deal with these enemy missile units. However, they do have a bunch of Galatian spearmen all the way in the back, kind of protecting them, so fair play to the AI for doing that. What I am doing is I am going to use my Euxenoi to keep throwing their missiles against this unit that is seemingly going to outflank my units. However, I decide to charge my general into the fray as well, cause some extra casualties, perhaps some morale, but I notice a swords unit is making a run for my general, so I pull him back out. Meanwhile, on the left flank, my cavalry is done dealing with the enemy general. The enemy general is in full retreat. He does have just a single unit left, and that's him all the way over there. And I didn't know this, but after basically seeing what ends up happening is this is actually the faction leader, the only guy who survives. I did manage to kill him, and he is going to survive, unfortunately. That being said and done, my Iphicration Peltas are kind of held up over here, so I decide to support them with my Euxinoi. They're not going to be really good against these medium Celtic warriors, but they are flanked, and I'm hoping that will give me a bit of an advantage. All the way out on the left flank, as you can see, I am beginning to chase any routing units, and I decide to do that on my right flank as well with my general unit. I decide that my slingers are not really helpful anymore because the front lines are completely engaged, so I'm going to try to flank with them and try to get some shots into the unshielded side of their front lines. That being said and done, we are quickly trying to avoid this reserve spear unit that's chasing us, and they are actually quite fast, so it's not easy to maneuver them, especially when we don't have any movement speed buff. So I am kind of micromanaging my cavalry a lot, and that tends to happen in this battle quite a bit, which is why some of my low tier units such as the Euxinoi as well as the Iphicration Peltaste take some significant casualties. In fact, even one of them ends up retreating from the battlefield. And pretty much what we're doing over here, we're trying to get into the gaps, try to get their skirmishers out of the combat. A really good charge from my general over here. This unit is busy routing. I noticed the spearmen's catching up, so I'm gonna choose to change my target and try to get out of there if the pathfinding will allow me to do so without taking any casualties, and I do get a little bit lucky over there. Decide that these two units are kind of free, so I'm gonna focus on hitting the enemy in the rear. Meanwhile, some of my other cavalry are off in the distance dealing with these units. Another cavalry unit over there is making a comeback into the battle, and I will try to use him to deal with this final unit of skirmishers. Meanwhile, our front line is holding really well. There's nothing much the enemy can do against our pike units, and sooner or later they are going to crumble. Over here we have a bunch of wavering Celtic warriors, and what ended up happening over here is I realized I wasn't making much progress. I had some missiles with our Iphicration Peltaste, so I actually pulled them behind, hurled some missiles into the back of these medium Celtic warriors, and charged back into the fray, which is now causing them to waver. So definitely I'm liking these low-tiered versatile units. Meanwhile, our general is going to charge into this final skirmisher unit. Massive charge, as you can see. We have a lot of units that are now in full retreat. We are managing to slowly complete our encirclement. Our slingers, meanwhile, are busy throwing their projectiles into the enemy rear. What ends up happening is the enemy does make a very good decision to kind of turn around and face these units. These are naked Galatian spearmen, so they are actually quite good units. They're very, very, very strong. However, they're still losing decisively because they're just so outmanned over here. Same thing going on with my cavalry all the way on the extremities of the battle map. We are busy at focusing on taking care of any wavering and routing units. We're using our general very clever and very smart in a way that he doesn't take a lot of casualties, but he is inflicting a lot of casualties. So we're hitting really soft targets with our general, and I do recommend for those of you, especially who are new to the game, to do it, and even those of you who are more experienced, it's always good practice to keep your general out of harm's way and to take the easiest engagements possible so that you get as much experience as you possibly can with your general, as well as take as little casualties as you possibly can with your general. That being said and done, we can see that the Galatians are holding their ground surprisingly, despite being completely encircled over here. That being said and done, it is going to be just a matter of time before they do end up breaking, and our Iphicrations do have some more Peltas. No, Peltas is the unit. They do have some more javelins, and they have done depleting the javelins. They're getting rid of some of these retreating Gallic warriors, which is kind of interesting. There goes one. Here's another one. Let's have a quick look. Ooh, I don't know how he managed to get that in such close quarter combat, but it is what it is. Pretty good. I can't complain really. And right now you can see that the bulk of the Galatian army is going to retreat. We have a mass rout. We end up, chasing as many units as we can. And they are basically just going to be just 2 units that we can't destroy. One is a garrison unit, which we kind of leave at about half strength. So that's really good. And the other one I mentioned earlier is that solo general, the coward who ran away from the battlefield. And unfortunately, he's going to survive until the next turn. And that being said and done, the battle is over, so I'm going to hop right back into the campaign, and I will see all of you guys in the campaign. Alright, with that we have won our first battle. It was a heroic victory. What a way to start the campaign. And of course, Antiochus the Savior has defeated the Galatians once again. We have managed to almost wipe out the entire garrison. The general or the faction leader is managed to escape just a single unit, really. And so that is going to be really tough to deal with. However, for now, what we are going to do is we're going to kill all the captives, because we really can't deal with the slave public order unrest. And killing the captives is going to make our satraps even more loyal towards us. So I don't really care, to be honest. Considering the fact that it was RNG based, we did try for the iron price, and of course our satraps are going to love us even more, and they're going to be less likely to rebel. But that means that I'm going to conquer them straight up after I'm done dealing with the Ptolemies and the Galatians. So it won't be simultaneously, but it will be eventually. That being said and done, let us go ahead, kill the captives, and I will see you all in the next turn when we are ready to take the offensive into Ancyra and claim this settlement for ourselves. Alright, welcome to what I would believe is going to be the final turn for this first episode. And we have Antiochus II, son has come of age. This is obviously the son of Antiochus I. So we're going to go ahead. We got some political intrigue, and Antiochus Sota has also increased in rank. Some of our other characters have also increased in rank. So let's go ahead and give him the military logistian as well as the military conscriptor. This is our standard. We want that army upkeep as well as we want that replenishment rate to be the max as max can be. That being said and done, let's go ahead and quickly level up our other character, our dignitary over here. We're going to focus on that cultural conversion, as we have done that with all of our other dignitaries, and the idea is to help culturally convert our provinces as quickly as you can. As you can see, in Palmyra, for example, we're getting 17 influence, 2.8 Hellenic cultural change every single turn. Meanwhile, in Mesopotamia, we are getting at about 18 influence at 1.5. Mesopotamia is going to be a lot slower because of the Hanging Gardens or the ancient Babylon wonder, which does give +5 Persian cultural influence. That being said and done, let's have a very quick look at the overall situation in our realm, not our empire. I'm not going to call it an empire, even though technically it is an empire, but it is right now a kingdom as far as the game is concerned, so I don't really want to cause any confusions. In the south at Charax, we have Stratus II, Mesopotamia, with all the hoplites as well as the slingers, which, coming to think of it, I don't think we will require anymore. But I am going to keep them just to keep our satraps a bit loyal, to prevent them from actually attacking us, especially when we're in this very vulnerable situation. And meanwhile, over here we have Stratus III Syria, which I intend to keep moving towards the province of Palmyra. We're going to go up in that direction, and we are going to replace the general with Antiochus II. Go ahead, hire him, give him the Hippeos Agamatos, and there we go. He is now in charge of Stratus III Syria. Let's have a quick look at his traits. It's growth pattern and public order. So he's really good as an administrator, but we are going to keep using him as a general because that is what is ideal when it comes to family members. And speaking of our buildings, we're nearly done completely building up our provinces, so there's nothing much to see there. Our economy is suffering a little bit. That is because we have a lot of units. We have Stratus 4 Cappadocia that is busy recruiting in Tarsos. The idea is to get them to kind of link up with Stratus 3 Syria, and therefore we will have 2 full stacks ready to go. And by 2 full stacks I mean basically 18 stack out of 20, because I am saving 2 spots for elephant units, and I have cancelled building the stables, although in hindsight I think I should continue building stables over here, because it will give me access to the Indian elephants, which aren't that great, but they are Indian elephants, which means they are the strong elephant entity. However, what we really want is to get that level 4 royal stable so that we can get access to the Elephantes Syriacoi, which is basically your Syrian war elephants. And these guys are absolutely insane. They are the best elephant available to a non-Indian faction, as of course the Indian faction have just 2 elephants that are better than this. One is the General's elephant, and the second one is the Mauryan Tower elephant. So pretty much we're going to have the best elephant unit in the game, with the exception of course of the Mauryans, but we're going to wipe them off, aren't we? However, that being said and done, let us quickly have a look at our politics. Some of the factions not very friendly, especially this Macedonian nobility, and that's mainly because they hate Easterners and they hate barbarians. While we can't do much about the hate Easterners bit, we can actually do something about the hate barbarians, and we can actually end up assassinating this character once we are able to get enough of a political situation ongoing. And for that we really need to look at our characters, make sure we have at least a character that can improve on zeal. Unfortunately we do not have that. This guy has a pretty good zeal. We could get him married off, and we are going to get him married off, and perfect, we have a character with 6 zeal, 5 cunning, though that's not all that good. And we are going to use the Jaya to kind of improve the characters, all our female characters, as we need our female characters to conduct political intrigues, go ahead, assassinate some of the undesirable party leaders and so forth. However, that being said and done, let us focus on what's going on in Ankara. In Ankara, of course, we weren't able to replenish in the previous turn because we are in enemy territory. We have taken some losses, but thankfully not a lot to our second class population. We have taken some major losses to our third class population, but that's okay. I can live with that, and I'm pretty much okay with that. And these guys actually come from second class population, which is really interesting. I think it is well deserved because they are actually really good as units. That being said and done, before we go ahead and attack Ankara, let's have a quick look at the situation outside. And really can't see much. We do have an Egyptian army over here, so I'm not going to move Stratus 4 Cappadocia towards Stratus 3 Syria. I'm going to keep him in Tarsos to kind of protect my southern, or my northwestern flank. And that being said and done, let's go ahead, attack. These guys should be really easy to attack. We can just quick save over here, quickly auto-resolve. We're going to go for that protective stance, I believe. And it is Greek culture, so I'm not going to go ahead and loot it. What I am going to do is peacefully occupy it, and that should give me the population that I require to replenish, and that is really something good. And what we can do is we can go ahead and get some army traditions. I do believe the Stratego Spears is quite good. For the second one, I'm not entirely sure. So I am going to go ahead and get this, and I am going to fill this one a bit later, I believe. Or I am actually going to take a very quick look at the army traditions, and I'm going to create a guide for the army traditions that I recommend. And after I have a quick look at those army traditions, I am going to hop back in and select that final army tradition. Alright, sorry about that. Let's go ahead and quickly select the next army tradition, and I believe that's going to be the Accomplished Skirmishers, because these two kind of unlock better army traditions going ahead. That being said and done, is very good. Things are looking really nice. I can go ahead and convert this building. Meanwhile, I am just going to simply demolish this military building. Eventually, the province of Galatia at Cappadocia, I want to make it into a military recruitment province. But for now, I am not going to do that. What I am going to do is I'm going to focus on quickly stabilizing the public order within this province. And that being said and done, I think we are looking really good in Anatolia. There's nothing much other factions can do. Maybe we can even establish a trade agreement with Pontus. We can't. But what we can do is try to break our agreement with Katpatuka, because I think it is time that we attack them. And once we can attack them, then we have pretty much consolidated our holdings in Galatia and Cappadocia. Eventually, we are going to have to take outside, eliminate the Ptolemaic threat over here. We can use Antiochus II to link up at Tarsos. He will be in charge of, let's see, what's the age of a faction leader? The age of a faction leader is 39, so he still has quite a lot left in him. However, I do want to focus on leveling up Antiochus II a lot quicker. So what I am going to do is link up with the army at Tarsos, march further south, so that he can deal with the conquest of Yehuda. And of course, Yehuda is still, Judaic culture group, so we're going to have to wait for it to flip, and then we can begin our assault and take out Yehuda. Meanwhile, we do have a spy that's keeping a close eye on the situation in Jerusalem, and it's not looking good. We have a Ptolemaic army, but we can see their exact composition. They do have some pikemen, some Galatian mercenary spearmen, a couple of light cavalry, nothing that can hold their own against our own cavalry. As far as pikemen are concerned, our bronze shield pikemen are better than the Claruchoi pikemen. So we do have an advantage. However, we're gonna have to keep a very close eye on the movements of this army, and we're gonna have to be able to very quickly consolidate our forces over here and march down south to present a sort of defense or even an offense against the army over here in Jerusalem. However, that being said and done, with Stratos 1 under our faction leader, we are going to take out Mazaka, and we are going to take out Side and wipe out this Egyptian threat once and for all. We're going to stay put a while inside until the garrison replenishes, and then eventually our leader is going to march down south and assist our heir in the conquest of Egyptos. And we should have the advantage, because once we have 2 full stacks or close to 2 full stacks, then we should be in a very good situation to defeat the Ptolemaic faction. Meanwhile, a final look at our satraps. They seem to be very, very happy for the most part. We might even be able to get a trade agreement, but of course I'm not going to do that. I'm still going to allow some leeway for them to rebel. But for the most part, all of our satraps seem to be very effectively placated. And honestly, I didn't intend for this to happen, but it just happened, even though I didn't pay any attention to them, to be honest. And it just so turned out that the RNG was so good. We had Galatia declare on us on the very first turn. All of our satraps decided to join that war. We had the Ptolemies declare on us on the very second turn. And once again, all of our satraps decided to join that war. So, to be honest, it's not really my fault. It's just really good RNG. That being said and done, final look at politics. Nothing much to see over here. Parties are fairly loyal, with the exception, of course, of the Macedonian nobility. Really don't care about that for now, because we do have protected for another 15 turns, which means there can't be any civil wars of any sorts. Meanwhile, our influence is exalted, which does mean that we get that -3 tax per turn. So I am going to have to focus on improving the loyalty as well as the influence of my political rivals, so that I can bring that down to beloved, which is kind of ideal. However, I don't mind staying in the exalted just for a little bit, because I can form the empire with that 65% influence, so that remains to be seen. However, for now, let's have a quick look at our summary. We are still at Imperium level 4, but once we conquer Egyptos from the Ptolemies, we should be at Imperium level 5, which means we can pretty much in the next couple of episodes reform into an empire and then be super powerful. We can have a final look at diplomacy. Diplomacy wise, we're looking quite good. However, I mean, I can actually go ahead and, you know, actually cancel trade agreements. And I'm going to show it just for Armenia. Let's go ahead and cancel this trade agreement. And we can get it again. Nope, we can't. So that was a bit of a mistake. I think that is because Armenia is actually treacherous. So don't do this with Armenia. But I think it should work with Atropatene. And if it doesn't work with Atropatene, then I'm an idiot. And it did work with Atropatene. However, they're not all too eager to do it. And once again, they're treacherous. So I should have been paying attention to that. And yeah, I kind of screwed it up again. But basically what you want to do is you want to cancel trade agreement. Let's try it with Athens because I have to prove a point. And once you cancel that trade agreement, you can get it back again. You can squeeze a little bit more money out of them. So that's basically what I wanted to do. Unfortunately, I couldn't really do that in a proper way with the Atropatene and the Armenians because they are treacherous and aggressive, both of them. So this kind of means that I might be in a bit of a problem with Atropatene. They do have a formidable army in the province of Mada over here, 20 stack. And of course, there are going to be a lot of cataphracts in that stack. I can't really see what they have. But if they do declare war, I'm pretty sure my satraps will kind of engage with them. And that should actually be to my advantage because I do have an army over here that can protect Hatra. I'll move them up towards Hatra to kind of defend against any possible invasions from the Atropatene. Meanwhile, my subjects will deal with the Atropatene and the Atropatene will be busy engaging with my subjects, which kind of means that they both will weaken each other out, which is kind of in my favor, I guess. However, that being said and done, I think I am done with this episode. It was a pretty long episode. Not much has happened in terms of warfare. However, you know, it is a long episode. We are playing as an empire, which means we are starting out with a lot of actions, a lot of diplomacy, a lot of things we need to get in order. And I am actually going to continue building that stables because I do want to get to level 3 so that I can get those Indian elephants. However, back to what I was saying that being an empire, we had a lot of diplomacy. That took a lot of time and out of the episode, and we could only manage to fight one battle. Thankfully, that was a really epic battle in my opinion. We managed to wipe out the Galatians, managed to get a very strong position in Anatolia, and eventually once we have completed converting the province of Syria, I'm going to use my dignitary to peacefully get Samosata using the timber trade region submod. And then I am going to work my way towards consolidating or slowly integrating, Lydia. That being said and done, I thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. And if you liked the video, then like the video. And don't forget to subscribe if you are interested for more peace and love.